Meet the real woman behind the tabloid headlines in a personal podcast that delves into the life of the notorious Tori Spelling as she takes us through the ups and downs of her sometimes glamorous, sometimes chaotic life and marriage.
I just filed for divorce. Whoa. I said the words that I've said like in my head for like 16 years. Wild.
Listen to Misspelling on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Still the Place with Laura Layton,
Courtney Thorne-Smith,
and Daphne Zuniga, an iHeartRadio podcast. All right. Well, here we are back for our episode 2 of the original Melrose.
Yay! So good to see you
I feel like I haven't
guys.
seen you in a while. At least for the recap, at least for like doing this podcast.
We had a little break because we did one episode and then you two jetted off to Europe.
We did.
Not together.
We went to Italy.
Not together, but
Each of us
oddly,
had our little
you
trips, yeah.
were jet setting.
You had a
I was
wedding,
home with
not
my
to me.
dogs.
It wasn't my wedding. It was our daughter's wedding.
Yes. Tell us a little bit about it.
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. It was a wedding in Italy. And
Pictures were beautiful.
Yep. Our daughter lives in Europe. And so she had her wedding there, and people traveled from, lots of different places to be there. And it was beautiful. It was amazing.
It was beautiful.
There was a lot of excitement before you left about finding a dress. Did you find the perfect
I found
dress?
a dress. I found a few dresses. And then, as you do, then you have to narrow it down. It all worked out. It was just beautiful. It was perfect.
Oh, you sent
Yep.
some pictures. They were so stunning. I'm so happy for all of you.
Thank you.
It was
Still a little
so
jet
cute to
lagged,
see Doug, to
so-
see you guys together.
You're
Oh,
still jet lagged.
A little
memories.
bit.
Well, what
Yeah.
I thought was amazing and such a baller act was you landed and then joined us we all did this press day, which I had been back for a couple weeks, I think. And I did the press day and I was exhausted.
Yeah. Well,
But you came back and your luggage wasn't even here and you did 12 hours of press.
Yep. Had a little bit of travel drama. But
Amazing.
it was really fun to come back and have the launch
Yeah.
to celebrate.
That was
and
great.
So we went out and did our press day for the launch on the actual launch
It was
day.
so
That
much
really
fun. And, I realized I don't have that muscle anymore. I looked at the schedule and I was like, 12 hours. I haven't done anything for 12 hours in many years.
Yeah. So you were
I
like,
was
I can't go anywhere for this month.
Wow, that is a long time to be away from home. I had to get someone to watch my dogs. My dogs were like, what is happening? But it was really so much fun to hang out with you guys. I'm so glad I got to do it with you. It felt so different to do it together. It made it so much more fun than that thing alone where people are asking you questions because we got to play together, which was really a joy.
If you had done it alone, who would have been there to photograph you taking a little snooze on the couch? In the middle?
I know.
I know.
How would we have documented
These two
that?
are jet lagged, and I'm the one who fell asleep on
know.
the couch.
I
You were smart.
was
You just took a
holding the
little snooze.
camera and Laura just looks at me and points.
I'm like,
like
"Get
this.
this.
And
Get
I'm
a
like,
photo
gotta
of
take
that."
that picture. She
And then
was
they put it on the group chat, and I was like, "Why did you take this?" They said you were cute. I'm like, "Nah, whatever."
You were cute. You were cute. You were I don't know, very gracefully.
I don't know
asleep.
how you kept it because when I'm jet lagged, it's just over. There's just a point in the day about noon, and it's over. And you kept going, and your daughter was there.
Lucy.
Yep.
That was
Who
amazing.
I brought
was
my youngest
completely
daughter.
in
Yep.
charge of social media, totally, because
Posting.
she's young and knows how to do it. It was so funny. Laura and Daphne just kept handing her their phones. It was
Yeah.
so
Here,
Yeah.
Lucy, do it. Take it.
Here, Lucy,
Everyone
do the
needs-
thing with the thing.
Yeah,
It was so
everyone needs a
cute.
Lucy Savant to just here, help me with this.
She was
Everyone needs that.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She was amazing.
She's awesome.
Maybe she'll keep working here.
It's such a time warp because we're watching these old shows and I'm watching you guys then, especially Doug, because he was in episode 2. And then I'm having these flashes of you guys now and the pictures you sent from the wedding. It's such a mind blower.
Doesn't it seem like we're kids in the show and now we're grown-ups? We're watching the children of ourselves.
I don't feel
ourselves.
as different as I should. I don't feel as different as I should.
I don't feel any different inside my body, but I think just what it seems like is I am watching. I'm still not in the episodes yet personally, but I'm looking at the baby version of Doug,
You,
and
yeah.
the baby
Of
version
Courtney.
of Allison.
It's amazing
of
with
Courtney,
her little
and
ponytail.
it's so funny. But now we're in the same room and going, oh, this is the adult version. But we get to watch this
It's a cool thing about film though, because it feels like yesterday, maybe plus, a couple of months. But to see you look so young and I don't know.
She means
the
to say I
gift.
look exactly the same, just for the audience
Yes,
at home.
exactly.
You were
What-
just the perfect like
That's the gift
ingenue,
of
like
film.
just
It's this
sweet
archive,
ingenue, and it's
totally with your hair and that little ponytail. And we'll go
So
through
sweet.
it, and we'll.
right,
get
I know.
to
Yes, I'm excited to go
obsess.
through it because we talked to Tori Spelling and Jenny Garth yesterday, and they said you'll become a fan of the show. And the pilot was hard for me to watch. I think it had such a visceral reaction. And last night I had a friend over and we were watching it. And I'm becoming a fan. Like there's enough distance, and I was so invested in the characters, and I could see it from a little bit of a distance. I also had emotional reactions, but we will talk about that as we get into episode 2 of Melrose Place.
episode 2 again, we get to really see what's going to happen between Alison and Billy, and we find out. Let's see, just a general synopsis of this episode. It's
called Friends and Lovers.
That's right, season 1, episode 2, and this episode aired on July 15th, 1992. While we were still on a Wednesday. While moonlighting as a taxi driver, Billy picks up Marcy, a lively dental student who practically moves in, causing chaos and jealousy from Alison.
Furious about it to this day.
Meanwhile, in a crossover from Beverly Hills 90210, Kelly's crush on Jake intensifies. And so we'll see him getting really mad at a couple points in the episode. And after Jake's arrest following a brawl, Kelly bails him out, but remains undeterred by his checkered past. Dun, dun, dun. Jane and Michael get into, their relationship already struggling, episode 2, and they're already sort of not great. So anyway, we had a couple cool guest stars.
Dr. Ruth.
Dr. Ruth.
That was
I know.
amazing.
We'll get there. That was totally amazing.
That was one of the guest
All
stars.
right. So should we just start on where
Let's get
Let's go.
to
Let's
it.
go.
All right. The episode begins with Alison and Billy in the morning, starting their day in the apartment. And Alison says that the coffee is too strong and that she doesn't want Billy reading the paper before she does. Wah, wah. She has all these rules. And but he's looking at the classifieds. Alison says she wishes she had someone to talk to. And Billy says, well, what am I, chopped liver?
That
What?
was so cute.
Yeah.
So adorable. So we go right into Jake's apartment. He has issues with the water, and it's so funny because you said Jake was mad. I was
Super
like,
mad
he
about
starts
the
off
water.
so mad.
Yeah,
I was
so
like,
mad.
Yeah.
Whoa, he was so mad about
Yeah.
the water.
Startling.
Shirtless. We start off shirtless. Well played.
Yes.
Well played.
I
That's our
counted
first- that's
2
our first
minutes,
shirtless count.
55 seconds
Oh, you
till we
counted
get
the
to see
time.
Grant.
It's like the time code.
shirtless and all dripping wet, I might add.
Nice, but he walked so mad. And what struck me about that scene when he goes over to
Thomas's.
Michael. I know I want to say Thomas. but it's
Michael's. Michael and Jane's
apartment.
All
Thomas
right.
and Josie. That Michael's so calm and like together and trying to talk him down, and he's mad. And I'm flashing to later when the tables turn, but he was so mad about the water.
Yeah.
His tensions were a little high.
Yeah. He needed a hot shower that day. He was not getting it. And boy, that just sent him.
I don't know if we're supposed to notice the details, but that was one of my favorite lines when he was like, whenever someone else goes hot, I go cold, and I just love Melrose is full of lines like that. Like at the
That's
very
a
okay.
good one.
We got-
And that's the beginning when nobody would fight them, right? We were just
Yeah.
say the things as written, and
Yeah.
you just go.
Yeah.
Nobody would say, "Can I ask you about
Can I
this
just
line?"
make it a little smoother? Yeah. But there's where Jake is now telling Michael that he has a bad attitude, which I can't really argue with. I think Michael was always a little bit, little smug about it.
Yeah, I think so.
But
too.
let's see where that takes us.
the beginning.
So Rhonda and Alison are leaving for work, and Jake runs into Sandy and tells him he's headed for the unemployment line. But she says, hey, stop by Shooter's later. Maybe we can have a beer. Mm-hmm. I have to say, that scene, I think that was where I'm going to just jump ahead. The best, worst hair might have been Amy Locane's hair in that scene. Do you remember? It was a little bouffanty, and that struck me as oh.
Well, that was
Sort of a-
tease it high, the
starlet
southern
sort of hair.
starlet. Yeah,
And trust me, I should not. I mean, I'm not throwing stones because I have some really impressive hair coming up. But I'm just.
But it was
it's
also
more of a
a
sign of the times. Exactly.
I
for
was
sure.
looking at
it's
my
sign of
hair
the
and
times
going,
hair.
that's a lot of hairspray. That's what I remember. I was like,
And curls.
Wow, that's a lot of. Well, I don't know if I mentioned this the last one, but I had dark hair, and we were trying to get it back to blonde, and the best we could get was that sort of strawberry blonde. So I'm not even at my natural hair color. I've got this weird sort of
right.
mid-level hair color. So
Right, you said that.
and
It
a
was
lot of
very
hairspray.
cute.
And that low ponytail, which I remember, which was very in
Did
at
you
the
like the
time.
low ponytail?
I did. It was an actual
I loved it.
hairstyle from my actual life. I hope I used less hairspray in my actual life, but I did have that. So then Michael and Jane's apartment, and do you remember? I remembered them talking about this at the time, that she was always trying to get his attention, and she's insanely gorgeous, right?
Yeah.
And that she's constantly trying to get his attention, and you're like, are you blind? Well, the same way when Alison was being rude to Billy, like, is everybody on the show blind?
Yeah.
Do you not see who these people are?
Yeah.
Like, she's so sweet. But there is a payoff for this at the end that we'll get to at the end that really sort of got me in my heart. That was very sweet.
Yeah.
So this actually does pay off.
Yeah.
Yeah, she wants to hear about what he remembers about them falling in love, and he has nothing. I got nothing.
But wait, I just think that that's an interesting theme about when people fall in love, because, and this is sort of very common. Like, someone has a moment, I don't know if it's often the woman or what, but for Jane, it was, I just remember seeing you, and I remember when you did this, and it's very specific. That's her idea of love and falling in love. And he didn't have that. And that creates the drama and the conflict. But people are like that. Like, think of our own partners, or over the years, like, they just remember just this feeling of safety, maybe, or they just remember, like, being nervous or excited. It's not a moment. It doesn't make it any less.
And she's basically asking, just tell me why you love me, and he can't come up with anything.
I was feeling for him, and that at this point in the series, probably the last time I felt for him, because you didn't see it the same way. Episode 2, then that's it.
Yeah, it was really sweet. And she played it so vulnerably.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really sweet.
So from there, we go to D&D, and where Alison is seeing Hal, the boss, co-worker person who took her to the event. Maybe not
Alison
necessarily
thought it was
just
a work event. He
accompanying
thought it
him
was
to
a
the event.
date.
Yeah. And I thought it was very interesting that her coworker told her that somebody else already reported it, and it's fine. He's dead. You don't need to do anything. Like, she went in completely empowered to go stand up for herself and say something to him. And she said something to him, and then she was like, I'm going to, make sure to take care of this. And then the coworker comes and says, don't worry, somebody else already took care of this, so you don't have to do anything.
There's
and
a
it was
cute
like,
boy outside. Yeah.
now you don't have to do anything.
Yeah, well, an example of how it would be different today, right? That would have been a main storyline. Now it's like, done, moving on.
Let's
because
just
they
wrap
wanted
that
to get
up.
on
Yeah.
to the romance. Right, yeah, it's so true. It just wasn't, we kind of touched on it. It wasn't the issue it is today.
Yeah.
That's
And I
such
just
a
thought
cool
it was
issue.
like wrapped up really kind of conveniently and just pushed away. Like, oh, have somebody else take care of it off camera. Like, we don't actually have to see Alison going through with standing up for herself.
That's so
I thought that was
true.
sort of interesting.
It's so true.
And we didn't see her get threatened by losing her job from the guy, which is what would have been, was kind of all the narrative these days.
Yeah.
A woman can't speak up because
Yeah.
there's a lot at stake.
So
That wasn't there. That, worked for her very easily in about 45 seconds straight.
And moving on. Yeah.
and from
How
there,
nice for her.
somebody says there's a cab for you. So does Alison suspect? What do you mean there's a cab waiting outside for me?
Neither Alison nor I had any idea that was happening.
Yeah.
I was like, what? And there's the adorable Andrew.
Because we find out that Billy is now driving a cab instead of being an Arthur Murray dance instructor.
We'll miss him dancing with the
so
mop. I
good.
already miss it. That was the cutest.
I love his excitement about the cab. Isn't this cool?
Yeah.
Like,
know,
by
I
the way,
know.
like, I never see cabs in LA, but I love it. It was a yellow
Yeah.
cab, and Billy was so
And he
excited
couldn't
about
have been
it. Running
happier.
around.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Jumping
then
in.
he picks up Marcy.
Yes.
Gets in the cab. And Jensen, who played Marcy, Jensen Daggett, is an actress I've run into like 100 times. She's one of those
Really?
people who I run into all the time, and we remember that day.
Really?
That's amazing.
We crossed paths 1,000 times. Isn't that funny?
That is amazing.
Yeah.
But now, wait, he doesn't pick her up until until Billy and Allison have decided they're going to paint the apartment together, which
Yes.
is kind of an important thing.
Which was kind of vulnerable for Allison to say, do you want to paint the apartment with me? And there's a spark in her eye because she's starting
Right.
to think there could be something
So they made this plan together.
here, which I think Allison considers a date.
Yeah. Well, who wouldn't want to consider that a date?
Yeah, because we're thinking you paint each other and then you make out.
Yep.
That's how it is in every
I kept
romantic
waiting for that to
comedy.
happen.
There's the montage, and then she comes home. And so this made me laugh. I had to text you guys about this. We're not supposed to talk before thing, but I had to text you because Billy and Marcy walk in, and he reaches to the mantelpiece above the fireplace and takes a strawberry, which is apparently where we
Wait
keep
a
our
minute.
fruit.
Hang on.
What is that?
You're jumping ahead here, but I do have to tell you that what I brought today
What did you bring?
is a random fruit bowl, as you do. You just have random fruit bowls. Sometimes you put
On
them
the
on the mantle.
fireplace.
Yeah, but I've brought a fruit
Oh.
Sometimes you put it
Well,
on the
yeah.
mantle.
There's
If at
strawberries.
any time
It's
anyone
random.
wants to reenact the scene.
Yeah.
But like that's
So-
something that could only happen in the first episode,
Totally.
where they would go. The director wants it. We've decided to put the fruit on the mantle. All the actors
Yeah.
are like, "All right." Like nobody.
Well, no, I think a lot of time it happens. A lot of time that happens because you're like, it's like the blocking has to work with the time.
Yeah.
Lunch is coming. And
Yeah.
it's like, no, we can't have you go in the kitchen and make out on the way to the bedroom.
Yep.
No, it has to happen here.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
well, where are we going to put the
scripted.
strawberries?
Yeah.
I don't know. Are they on the coffee table? We don't have a coffee table because the
Yep.
the camera's there. So we have. Well, what about here? The prop guy goes here. We're like, okay.
Yeah.
So they end up
Well,
there.
I know, but later
Happens
on
all
we
the
would
time.
say we can't. That's ridiculous. It was
Yeah.
and if so because he goes to the mantle. So it's so weird to try to figure out what it is. Like what I thought
I thought it was
that
gonna be
can't
fake.
be real fruit.
I
Right.
thought
Why
he
would
was
you-
offering her a
real
fake,
fruit?
like
I
a
thought it
wooden
was
strawberry.
I was like, is that a little wooden ball, like
Yeah.
a decorative?
Yeah.
What is that?
He's playing a trick on her. Here, take a bite.
So
Yeah.
there should have been an insert.
He
on
gives her the strawberry, and then they start kissing. And I had such a visceral reaction. It was so funny. I texted Andrew, and I'm like, so
did?
I'm watching the scene 30 years ago. We're not even dating yet. At the time, we weren't even dating. She's kissing him. I had this visceral, get your hands off my man reaction.
Oh my
at
God,
home
that's
in my
amazing.
living room. 30 years later.
That's hilarious.
Again, not dating yet. Haven't dated for 30 years. I'm furious.
Yes.
at this
That's
woman.
amazing.
Isn't that funny? I was
Yes.
like, oh my God, I'm having, and my girlfriend who's watching it with me is like, I'm furious too. Like we were both.
Well, it was mad. We were all mad,
were all mad
on
for
behalf
you.
of Allison.
We were
But,
all
like,
mad for
I love
you
that
and
Courtney's also
Allison.
like,
Courtney's buddy Andrew, like, I'm furious about this.
What did Andrew say? Get
my
over it. Did he say?
I could
Was she
check. I don't
cute?
remember what he said. No, no,
you just have to get it off your chest.
He remembered
Oh,
the
really?
time too. We just sort of laughed. I mean, it's just funny. to say.
That's
I said,
adorable, yeah.
Watch it. I'm dying to know what your reaction is because it takes me. What I'm surprised about this, what's so much fun about doing this podcast, it took me right back.
Yeah.
Like I'm right back in that moment in those scenes in a way I didn't expect to be.
Right. It's opposite for me because I haven't come onto the show yet.
Yes.
And so I'm not seeing myself. I'm seeing it as this lens pulled, like as the lens is pulled out. And I'm seeing the stories all sort of fit into each other. And like with a writer and director from up here. And I'm saying, oh, that fits so perfectly. You know, the parallel stories about love and you and then Jane. And I'm seeing all this fit in. And I go, I had no idea because I was in my little, trench of figuring out what I was doing.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
really fun to watch it now.
It
with
is fun.
seeing what they had in mind and kind of an overall view, and it's really cool.
Although still super mad at Marcy.
After Allison and Billy decide to paint the apartment together, we find Sandy and Kelly both at Shooters. And Jake is on his way there, supposedly to meet Kelly for lunch, but Sandy informs Kelly that Jake is actually at the unemployment office. And then we find him at the unemployment office where the guy at the counter gives him a runaround and says he didn't fill things out right and he needs to go back to the end of the line. And that's just sending Jake, who already started the day angry.
Yeah, because of the water. He thought
It's
he was
just,
angry
it's
then.
not cool.
It's just adding fuel to the fire. Everything that happens is adding fuel to his fire, damn it.
Yeah.
Did you notice how big unemployment was up? That was a
Hey.
very crowded office.
Yeah, it was
1992.
very busy place.
Packed.
Very busy. But then is when we find out that Billy, back in his cab, picks up his first fare, and it is Marcy, where they have their, incredible meet cute and find out that they were at the same concert many years ago,
Bruce
and they bonded, and it
Springsteen.
turns into not just like a cab fare, but kind of like a date, and they hang out for the day, right?
Driving around to the valley.
Right.
To the valley.
He invites her
He's like-
to a restaurant and turns off the cab. like not available as a
Still
driver.
furious.
Yeah,
Furious. I'm as mad as Jake
Who
is.
knew they were
So-
going to eat strawberries off the mantle?
Right.
Just a
So
few
while that's
things.
happening and being all cute, Jake is at the unemployment office losing it, and that's when he has like the second, infuriating encounter, where he stands up for the woman who's not able to get her check. And
Yes,
there,
that was
I think
sad.
that was the first time I think we really got to see. Oh, Jake is going to be a stand-up guy, and he's going to be like standing up for not just himself, but like
Tough
what
guy
makes
with
him
a heart
angry
of gold.
on other people's behalf. So
Yeah.
yeah. So he really got.
But
to,
you know what was interesting is that when the woman said to Kelly, your boyfriend has a track record of other
priors.
right, with the police. So I was curious. I was like, what else did he do? I knew he did stuff protecting me and other people later in the show, but I didn't know. Did anyone know what else Jake has done?
I think that was like a story point that was like dropping that
I wonder if we
information
ever find
for
out.
like character. Like
I know. I
hope
we all
we'll
just
find
learned that
out
at the
going
same time.
forward.
He has priors.
Let's
what is
ask
that?
him. He's very clear about
Yeah.
that stuff. But the other thing I got, so when she puts her credit card when Kelly puts her credit card down to try to bail him out, I had totally like missed that's right, rich girl,
Yeah.
tough boy. That brought that storyline back for me. That was probably covered more on the 90210 part of it. But I was like, oh, that's right. That's this romantic story of tough guy, rich girl.
Yeah.
He doesn't want her to be taken care of, but she really cares about him. I was like, oh, that is super romantic.
Yeah, the high school girl who has the credit card and she's willing to bail him out, and that sort of pisses him off.
Yeah. And that was a crazy time to have a credit card. For a person that young to have a credit card in the 90s
Yeah.
was crazy. Now they all do, which is also crazy.
I remember
seems early.
actually in college. Well, that was 20 years. It was 10 years before. I remember having $7 in my checking account and being offered a credit card because you're in college. They offer all of you that. They did that back in the early 80s, and I was like, okay. I mean, I thought it was like free money because it was a card and you could charge stuff, even though you only
A
had
lot of people get
$7 in your
trouble that
checking
way.
account.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
in Kelly's card was declined in that moment. Yeah, which is
Would have been.
she was trying to use her parents' card and maybe
All right.
they
did
cut
we
her off.
catch up now to where I yammered
Almost.
ahead?
Yeah.
I jumped ahead.
So yeah, here's where then Allison and Billy's apartment, and Billy offers the strawberry.
Yes. And Courtney, we've
So they're
already
having
covered
an
that.
extended date. Yeah.
So then
And also, Courtney is in adorable outfits. Your
Yeah.
painting outfit.
the
Yep.
painting or the
Super
striped tank
Come
under the
on.
overalls
The
was to die
overalls.
for cute.
Yep.
Yeah.
You were
So
And
so
they're
cute.
back.
90s.
That's another thing
You're
that's back. The
scrunchy.
overalls are back.
So are
Yep.
scrunchies.
So are scrunchies. Yes. Yeah, that was super cute, that outfit.
You were super cute. And she's painting alone.
It's so funny because I just remembered, weren't you in a baseball jacket too? You're like the,
What was that
you're
jersey?
Like the friend roommate wardrobe.
Yeah.
This thing. Do you notice? Like nothing's alluring.
Yes.
There's nothing feminine.
But adorable.
But this
no, and
face,
I'm
and it's like-
spackling. What I remember is that I'm spackling and I can hear them
Yes.
like
Yep.
making out. That's the part that made me
Yep.
furious. I may have had an extra piece of pizza listening to that because I was
And
so
they
furious.
they
at that.
come out of the bedroom then, and it's so the first thing Marcy
This
does
whole
is
thing
ask
must
to use
have
your
totally
deodorant.
destroyed
Even
you.
with me, I'm
Yeah.
still angry about
The
it.
deodorant, really? Oh, who does
Oh
that?
my God.
Can I
That
use
stood
your
out at me.
deodorant?
I
Use
wrote that
his
down.
deodorant.
That was a
Yeah.
Melrose thing. Is it okay if I use your deodorant? I'm
Yeah.
like, what?
That's grody.
So Melrose. That's grody.
It's grody.
Who says that?
And then she has the nerve to like
Ever.
judge you for like putting your name on your fruit. Like,
Yeah.
really?
And then
You just
she's
asked
like-
to borrow my deodorant, and my post-it on my piece of fruit.
And then
is-
she's like, no, she has a snarky little attitude, and she goes with like, love all over her. She's like, you put names on your fruit?
yeah.
Okay, keep going.
So back at the police station now, because Jake has been, sort of hauled away from his altercation in the unemployment office, but he's released from jail, and Kelly is obviously isn't. So she's the reason, right? She paid cash. Is that what happened? She paid cash to get him out, or how did he get out?
Yeah, and then
Clarify
he's
for
of course so lovingly said, "Stay out of this."
Yeah, yeah. He was angry about that
How
too.
about thank you? That's all she needs to hear.
Yeah. So we go back to Alison's apartment where Marcy just hasn't left. She's still there.
no.
She will not leave.
I know. Now she's lighting candles. I love this scene, by the way. When you come in,
Yeah.
it's flammable. she puts it out.
Yeah.
Oh, like she just takes over the apartment.
She's
I
taking
know
over
the disappointment of thinking I'm going to see. Don't I come in going, Billy?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, her in a kimono lighting candles. Oh, you.
I have to say, like, it for a guest star to have so many scenes in such a big story arc, I think was unusual, right? Like that was a huge story that she was. Usually, it's like you focus on the series regulars, and the guest star just has a little bit. She had a giant. She just would not leave. Like that. You know, the nature of the storyline was like, this is a girl who will not leave. Yeah. And
she did a great
she
job
was
with it.
fantastic.
She did a great job with it. I
She
know.
was so
She was
good.
hilarious.
Yeah, amazing.
So invasive and pushy.
Yep.
And just, oh.
Yep, but charming, and she was great and had a ton of stuff to do.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard to do that part because the lines were written scene after scene of scene, and her getting more and more obnoxious, the way she talks to everybody else about him, and the love tricks, and then, you know, but she played it so charmingly. I think we all kind of fell for her, and then were creeped out by her at the same time. You know what I mean?
Because
I was
also we're
furious
rooting
at her from beginning to end.
Yeah.
Well,
for
you
the
hated
record.
her. But
Well, we were rooting
we'll take
for
her
Billy
out
and
for you.
Allison anyway. So yeah, it was, you know, she just never stood a chance.
But she made it work. She made it last because.
Well, then speaking of love, back in Michael and Jane's apartment, Jane is upset because Michael hasn't really revealed what it is that he remembers about them falling in love, and that's really sad. And then Allison comes in venting about her situation. She wants to see if she can spend the night there. And the irony of first love and those conversations is not lost on Jane. She's like, really?
And it's so sweet because then Allison says something along the lines of, I mean, you guys are so stable. You guys are such a great couple.
Yeah.
And they're in the middle of this fight.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, you can
Ouch.
sleep here. I know.
Yeah. Ouch for Jane.
It was very sweet.
So then, of course, we get to the courtyard scene where it's a pool scene because you got to use the pool. And
where Billy's bare chested
Wait,
at the
yes,
barbecue.
and that's
it's
like
the barbecue.
a couple people are bare chested, right?
Yeah.
We had a couple of
Ian Ziering.
walks
we
in
had
shirtless.
We had a
Yep.
guest chest come in.
Yes,
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 a guest boy chest.
Guest chest is a brand new category. We can start.
Yeah, we'll add it in there.
Yeah. So the guest chest, and all the people are at the pool, and all those cute bikinis, and all y'all were really cute.
Did Jake have sunglasses on because he had a black eye? Because I didn't see a black eye.
There was no black
I didn't see a black eye. I think it was just like his angry, like, I'm not speaking to anybody vibe.
Okay.
Black eye from what?
Well, he got into. I saw it. I thought,
Oh,
did he get
the
into an actual
brawl.
fist fight? There was kind of a tussle. But no, maybe it was
Maybe
just
that
a
was
choice.
maybe that
Maybe
was them
that
trying to
was-
cover like
Trying to pretend we're actually outside when we were all know we were in a sound stage fighting the pretend sun.
This is one of the last times anybody was allowed to wear sunglasses. I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's probably
really.
true.
Right.
He probably said I would wear sunglasses. They gave him one shot, and then Aaron
then they're
Spelling
like,
said,
"Never
"Never
again."
again." We get the Aaron Spelling note, "Never again" for sunglasses.
Around the pool is where Marcy really starts to be offensive because she's telling everybody like detailed stuff.
Yes.
And like it was so cringy. And again, she was great because that was a hard bunch of dialogue to deliver.
Yeah.
And it was super cringy.
Don't
but
you
she
think it
just
must
did
have
with,
been
like,
improv? Like, I think that her talking, that must have been some improv because she was in so many little conversations.
I
saying
don't
awful,
remember-
embarrassing, cringy's the perfect word for it.
I don't remember improv allowed ever on the show.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
But
But
it was-
maybe
she was terrific. And it was definitely cringy about how much detail she was revealing.
and
Ew.
everyone's just listening, you notice. No one's saying stop.
What do you say? It's so uncomfortable. We've all been there with one of those people, right? Who's
Yeah.
giving you way too many details about
you're
their
just
new person. You're like, oh, really? Wow. Nice.
Yeah.
I don't want to see your hickey, but thanks for offering.
But that's where Allison tells Billy that Marcy is the most aggressive woman she's ever met.
I know. That may
and-
have been improv.
Well,
I was certainly saying it home in my living room last night. I'll
there
tell
were
you that
some
right
other
now.
words I think Allison could have chosen, but she chose aggressive, which I thought was fine.
Yeah.
And but then it triggers Billy's daydream sequence.
Yes.
Billy's. It was so like
I love it.
such a. This is the sign of the times. He goes into the daydream, and it's Dr. Ruth.
Yes.
Also a sign of the times.
Amazing.
But
I mean,
wasn't it
amazing.
interesting that like the Jensen had the scene with Dr. Ruth, right? That was kind of a big deal, probably a big get that we have Dr. Ruth coming on Melrose Place, right? It's probably a big deal.
Oh, right.
To the
that
producers
is
and stuff.
Yeah, I think
interesting.
she had her own show at the time, or was all over the place.
And then it's just so funny that was the scene was
Well,
with Jensen
Instead of Billy.
Yeah,
The
but
rest
Billy's
of us
having
weren't
his like,
oversexed
Yeah.
talkaholics yet. That was a term, her diagnosis.
Oversexed.
Oversexed, self-proclaimed oversexed talkaholic. And I'm like, yep, that's exactly a talkaholic.
Oh my god! I'm going to use that, Daph.
Oh my god!
Oh my gosh!
I mean, the sense of humor in all of this is really another thing that I get. You know,
Yeah.
especially with
really
my
charming. And then this is so Billy comes back to reality when it's on fire, and then Rhonda takes over the grill and tells him he's going to need his strength for tonight.
Yeah. Also cringy. Not gonna lie. That one, a little cringy, but yeah, he nearly burned the place down. And then Jake is walking into the courtyard to find Michael working on the pipes. Well, thank goodness he's trying to do something about the pipes because we don't want to have another incident like.
I was sitting there going, now this would be an opportunity to have them both shirtless. They did not make that choice because they're doing manly things.
Well,
with
wasn't it
trying to
nighttime?
turn the. Yeah, but there could be water. I'm just saying it's a missed opportunity.
I think
that's
so.
all I'm saying.
I think so. That's a good note. I
'Cause
wish.
they're flexing with moving the wrench or whatever the hell it was.
But they sort of have a conversation about, sort of how they're similar and how Michael sort of understands who he is and why he maybe sort of doesn't handle things always correctly. Right? Isn't that where they bond?
That's
Yeah.
very sweet.
Yeah.
they
Michael and
totally.
Jake.
It was very.
But Jane, of course, opens the door to say goodnight, and we can see that she's still pissed off.
Oh,
Says goodnight.
poor Jane.
Yeah.
Maybe you love Jake more.
I don't know how to love Jake.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. That was the subtext.
You think that was a subtext?
That's a subtext.
Yes, I think Michael isn't going to need energy that night.
Right. You can rest tonight, Michael.
But Billy, speaking of energy, is starting to question his situation, and he's watching the creepy documentary about Black Widow spiders.
That's so funny.
Oh my god! But Marcy joins him on the couch, and she doesn't seem to understand that was sort of him questioning where the relationship is going.
Love where Billy gets his education.
Instead, she says, "I think I love you."
yeah,
Zoinks.
clueless.
Yep.
Feels a tiny bit soon.
A little bit. I think, and we learned it was only day 2. I think it was a tiny bit soon. Yeah. So Alison then in the morning is sitting in the kitchen when Billy walks in, and we realize that Marcy's still there. She's in the shower.
Using her deodorant.
But Billy now wants to confide in Alison and say that he's maybe not so sure about this and kind of turning the tables, right? Because he wants to talk to Alison. Alison's like, none of my business, your problem sort of thing. But
I mean,
You've
it's
made
so
your bed, young man.
clueless.
Yep.
The other thing I saw, you can blame Billy, the character, for being such a just a clueless. But a lot of guys, I remember when I was younger, what was like this? She's in love with me, and that happens. It's the estrogen, it's the hormones, and once you sleep together, you better watch out, mister, because she feels differently.
Yeah, that's true.
And then they're like, well, what do I do now? And the cluelessness of coming to you. Well, Alison, the cluelessness of coming to Alison to say, will you help me with the situation? Just totally clueless about it all. There's no look, I know maybe you're not you might feel a little nothing. It's just like that kind of archetypal clueless guy. You know what I mean? That was very clear to me.
could you say all that part about the estrogen and stuff in your Dr. Ruth accent?
The estrogen she feels the sexual experience for a talkaholic is much more dramatic than for somebody such as Billy.
So then Kelly's house, where Kelly and Donna and David are walking out of her fancy Beverly Hills house, heading to the hospital, which I missed. I was like, what? Who's having a baby? I missed it.
I
It
don't
went
know
by.
who was in the hospital.
They were headed to the hospital with balloons and gifts because somebody was having a baby. That came up really abruptly for me, and I sort of went,
Maybe
wait,
that's
what?
from 90210, but maybe that's a 90210 storyline.
Maybe that's what it
over.
was. And I only figured it out
sure.
at the end, that it was her. Why did I figure it out? That it was her mom having a baby.
Yeah, so that's a 90210 storyline.
Okay.
That's
all right.
why we're confused.
Well, so that was a crossover that didn't quite make sense for a Melrose viewer, I
Yes.
think, in the moment. Certainly didn't for me. It was my first time watching that episode.
Yes.
But anyway, that's where Jake wants to give Kelly back the $200. And he goes to Shooter's, having a beer. Billy comes in. And they're trying to have a conversation about like relationship advice. And like Jake says, dude, I don't really know how to help you with this one.
I got my own girl troubles. She's 16.
Yeah. So then Sandy's still trying to, work her way into Jake's life. And Jake asks Sandy out for a beer, but she thinks,
Playing hard to get.
no, I don't think you're ready for that. So she's sort of turns him down there. And then we're back to the courtyard where Billy is pacing by the pool and Marcy shows up in a red dress and gives him a hug. But Billy tells Marcy that he is not so sure he wants to continue and that Marcy's coming on too strong.
And they really let him off so easy with this, because a woman who would be that obsessed and that crazy wouldn't say, you know what, you're right. I do this.
I do
I'm
this all the
sorry."
time. Yeah.
That's not the reaction of someone who's that sort of unhinged. But I think we just kind of wanted to move her out nicely, not have him look like the bad guy.
Yeah,
But
totally.
she would not, I'm thinking, have handled it quite as gracefully as she did.
Again, a convenient writer
Yes, kind of
moment. Just let's
convenient.
get this wrapped up and make her apologize and go away.
Yeah. We don't want him to be a bad guy.
Yeah.
So have her take it all on.
So she does. She goes away.
Yeah.
And then we are on the scene where Michael and Jane are in the apartment, and Jane is apologizing to Michael for being a jerk.
Yep.
Was she a jerk?
Well,
for him,
she's playing sort of what I read from her performance, which was really great, was that she's sort of saying, look, I'm sorry. She kind of wants to put it under the rug because she doesn't want it to be an issue. She's still upset, but she's apologizing for her part. She's really keeping it right underneath. Mm-hmm. And then when he starts talking about how he feels, it's a beautiful shot because we're looking at her with him in the background and you see it on her face.
Yeah, her face was so
it was really beautifully
so emotional,
played,
yeah.
so vulnerable,
Yeah.
so sweet. And then that moment when he says it's every moment,
Yeah.
and she turns around and she jumps on his lap, and I was like, oh,
Yep.
Michael pulled it out. It's so sweet.
We finally have a good moment, and it was lovely.
Yeah, but it was an interesting way to start it with her apologizing and then him saying, no. Look, so it was really sweet.
I mean, I find myself doing that, like, because to her, the connection is what she misses. The connection is more painful than anything else. So she needs to come back to him because he's not going to apologize. Clearly, the writers, someone has to, so they get back together, so they feel that connection, like regardless of when we remember it. So, I mean, I've been in that situation where I'll say, I'm sorry for, maybe I shouldn't be the one to, but the connection is what's important. And so that's
so true.
It kind of felt really normal that she would, even though I would love to have heard it from him. But
No, I think
it's
you're
a
right.
beautiful
That's why I
makeup.
think it's a really well-written scene.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
she is the bigger person. She's the emotional center. And then that gives him the space, and she has that beautiful reaction, and they come back together.
Yeah.
That was real. I thought that
I
was
like
really well
that.
done. That was such a great payoff
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
that conflict.
Yeah.
It was really
And
sweet. Really
They
well
do
done
seem
by
so
both of
mature,
them.
don't they? The mature couple
Yeah.
in the building.
Yeah.
So then Jake is coming on his motorcycle again to the house, and Kelly's there, and he decides to take her out on his motorcycle. So he really can't figure out what he's doing.
But
Is it
that was
Sandy?
a
Is
sweet,
it-
vulnerable scene for him. Like when he comes to her
Yeah.
and he looks sweet and vulnerable and soft. That was a lovely scene.
Yeah,
And
when
I
he's
still
at the
think
door.
she's too young.
Yep.
But that in that moment you go, that's what she sees in him. That's the sweetness she
Yeah,
sees in
and
him.
he was really vulnerable, and that's when he says, "I don't know, I don't know why I'm doing this and what I'm doing, but like, it was authentic and vulnerable and sweet."
It really was.
So he went from angry guy to lovely, and
Yeah, and they ride off together. So at this
There
point,
they
you're
go.
kind of rooting for him.
And then our payoff with you
Yay!
and Billy.
Allison and Billy painting the apartment
side
which-
by side.
exactly what we all wanted to be seeing.
Yeah,
my favorite
that was
line-
adorable.
Yep.
Watch the drips.
and they didn't actually do the extra like, oh, you got a little paint on your nose.
Yeah, they-
We didn't on this because we had to. He called us. I don't know when the characters got together, but anyway, but they wanted to keep
They're
it apart.
heading
But
in
it was
that
cute. And then
direction.
you pull out and hear us laughing. That was very sweet.
Yeah, it was very
I like
cute.
that.
But you did only, it's going to take a really long time for those two to get that apartment painted because you guys just like painted
know,
over one
the
little
same
spot
place.
over and over.
Yes.
They're
Like,
nervous. They don't know what to
like,
say.
I've done so much house painting at my own house. It was like making me anxious. Like, no, long
So
stroke.
we're matching. We're but take one, take two, right? But I know. That's it.
It's never going to get done at this point.
And that was so sweet. Yay!
Yeah. So what were your, we sort of touched on it a little bit, but like what were your moments that were like sign of the times?
So I just want to jump back quickly. And remember I told you last time, I think it was, that Darren and I were roommates in college. And he said like a lot of Alison was based on me because the guys would never shop. And like I would just notice like things disappearing, you know, things like that. I was just like, okay, if we're going to share this little... this little refrigerator or shelf, like it's just, if your name isn't on it, then don't eat it, you know, just stuff like that. And I realized like, and I did this movie back in '83 called The Sure Thing. And I know that Darren loved that movie. And again, I was the uptight one called Alison in that movie. And John Cusack played this total slob kind of guy, like Andrew was, just the guy's messy. And I just feel like I got to see that now. Oh, this whole, again, it's very archetypal, stereotypical, where there's roommates. So I'm like, but Darren, I don't think he was falling in love with me in college because I think he probably was falling in love with the frat guys in the front of our apartment
But he was
building.
charmed by you.
But I just loved seeing that I didn't realize I was so anal. You didn't play it that much, but the character I did in The Sure Thing was really anal. That was definitely her characteristic. But at any rate, I do remember doing that, and that stood out for me. I thought the humor and the writing really stood out for me. Again, when I came onto the show as Jo, there was a lot of drama and hellish negative stuff that happened to her. But to see the comedy and the humor in this was really cool.
The sweetness in the
There's
beginning.
a lot in the beginning, yeah.
Yeah, I think the sexual harassment thing felt like a sign of the times, how they brushed it under the rug.
Yep. And the Dr. Ruth's appearance,
The
I thought
Dr.
was a
Ruth
sign of
thing.
the times.
Yeah.
You had a great line too, and I'm looking for it in my notes here because I want to get it right. You were a Midwestern nitwit. Do you remember that whole line? That one
remember that.
cracked me up. Yeah, I was like, I need to write that down. And I did. It was something about being a Midwestern nitwit. And I'm like, oh, I can relate to that. So anyway, that one cracked me up too. All right. Well, that was super fun, and
much
we
fun.
get to talk with Grant,
Our first guest.
Yeah.
So excited.
and I can't wait to
Yeah.
have that conversation. And then we
Let's
get to
do
have our
it.
next episode. I can't wait to see what happens
Yay!
next.
I love this. We're having
Yeah,
so much
this is
fun.
great.
All right, yay! All right, we'll hear you guys. Talk to you guys soon.
On Still the Place.